Hey everybody, welcome back to Goshen Prepping. I'm back in my school getting things done today, so I'm going to go put out another video and talk about, well, you know what? People who will cause problems in life, specifically violent people who may try to take your life. And they fit into 4 categories, by the way. And other channels talk about these, but they always pick out 3 categories and they don't pick out the 4th one. And I'm going to tell you that one at the end. Make sure you stay through because it's one that's going to sneak up on you. And very well, if you have some type of altercation, it very well may be this 4th category, so stick through it. So what are the 4 different types of dangerous people? The first one are simply desperate people. The saying goes, what? Desperate times call for desperate measures. And I will tell you right now, especially if crap hits the fan, with this inflation and people having a harder and harder time, the number one desperation that leads to violence, you know what it is? Hunger, starvation. In fact, when you see countries tumble and turn and set up a new political system, including obviously rebellion, food is the number one factor that leads to the rebellion. Food. Think about that. So what are we seeing in America? Right now we're seeing drastic inflation. I talk about all the time, watch out guys, we may see us running low on this food or this food. And I always tell you ahead of time, just be on the safe side. Stock up on it. And if we don't run out of that food, great, you have extra corned beef hash, whatever you need. But the thing is, when it comes to desperate people, and this is now my combat person, this is me from my combat years telling you how it works, is they will tell you, I had no other choice. And in fact, we'll see, like in third world regimes, when somebody's about to do violence on someone and cause problems, their desperation tells them, I have no other choice. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then I'm going to say, look into the future, because if we see a collapse of the economy in America, and we're going to see a lot of starving people, there's nothing worse than a starvation, desperate person. For example, your next door neighbor has always been a good friend to you and your family, comes over and helps you with their chores, you help them with their chores, maybe you loan them some cat food or whatever the case may be. And then you've been prepping, you've been stockpiling, and they have not. And now we're looking at widespread hunger. You know, if you don't think this is possible or even probable, then you need to do a little history, because this happens all the time. Societies fall. And America is no example. It may happen in our lifetime, it may not, but all societies will eventually crumble. But in those situations, he will turn from that nicest neighbor you've ever had to the most determined, desperate neighbor who wants to take your food and will take your food and take it from you violently. And the problem is we don't want to do anything against that neighbor because they're our friends. So maybe you do give them some food. Here's a can of my Vienna sausages. Have a good time for you and your family, because now desperation comes in. Their kids are starving. Why should your kids have food but mine don't? I want those Vienna sausages, or whatever the case may be. And once you give them one, they know where the food's at. So I'm not going to tell you, don't give them food. I'm not going to say that. I just want you to be aware of what's going to happen, because if you don't give him food, his family may die. If you do give him food, your family may die, because he knows where the food's at. But when the desperation comes, they'll tell you, I have no choice. There's the words, I have no other choice. In their mind, they have it set up that they have no choice. They are going to take your food from you, and therefore panic. You always see this, by the way. It goes back to, again, my combat years. You'll see it in their eyes. They have this panic, darting around looking. They have this panic because more than likely they know they may die in that situation. And watch for those, because like even situational awareness, one of the biggest things I teach in my school, even when not just martial arts, but Krav Maga and self-defense, I have classes devoted to this. It's all about watching people. The people with their heads down on the phone, that's not the problem. I mean, it's the problem for the fact that they should be looking around, but those aren't the people you have to watch out for. It's the ones who are looking back. The ones darting around, looking, panicking as they look back. You better get your guard up. So, by the way, just a quick self-defense trick. Those people, if they are coming to you, let's say they're trying to take your food, they'll often move in and out toward you and away from you. That's actually an instinctual thing, because if you're about to attack someone, you almost want to see, kind of like get your feet wet. Are they going to react? Am I going to do something? Go back and forth, and then they're going to attack. So watch out for that. All right, number 2, violent criminals. Now, you and I'm going to go ahead and just assume that we're actually pretty similar. We're both preppers. We watch things, see how things work out. We've had a fairly normal life, so to speak. What is normal? But when you look at violent criminals, they're not like you and me. I want you to understand this. America used to be set up, by the way, where they would try to rehab violent criminals in prison, try to make it so they become a member of society. But our prison system changed in the 40s and 50s, and especially as we pushed on and said, Now we're not going to do that. It's not about rehab. It's about locking these people away so they never can actually come back into society again. Of course, now we have modern times where they're not even being put away, which is even scarier. But I want you to understand, ethically speaking, morally speaking, not everybody sees things like you and I do. That's the hardest thing for people to get, because we think that, let's say you're staying on the street, you've got $20, and here comes this person and says, listen, I really need money because I need food, drugs, or whatever the case may be, and you've got some money, right? Your mind will think, oh, I can reason this with this person. Oh, I feel bad for them. Here's $20. That's not what they're thinking. Ethically, morally speaking, they don't think like you and I do. We think that we can actually reason with people. We think we can talk with these people. But a violent person does one thing: violence. And if you have $20, they're going to come after you. They want, just like that person who wants your Vienna sausages, they will be coming for more. All you're doing is showing weakness, by the way. You can't show weakness in these situations, because criminals in prison, there's been extensive studies on this, by the way, where they'll show these prisoners who volunteer for these jobs, and they'll say, probably like a study where they give them extra cigarettes or something. And they'll say, if you just simply watch these videos and tell us which person on all these people walking on the street you would attack, it was 99% all the same, the weak people. They're going for the weak people because they don't want to cause any problems. They just want your money and food and walk away. And if you're a person who is weak, they're going to subdue you. It's you they're coming after. So we always need to walk in confidence and let people know you are not going to get something easy out of me. And the studies show that at that point, they'll usually just leave you alone and they'll look for the next easy target. So violent criminals are the second person you have to deal with. The third one, I don't even want to go into, but we have to. I'm going to put it in the category of sleepers and predators. Sleepers and predators. Because we see, certainly in America right now, there's sleeper cells here. Guaranteed there's sleeper cells here. They're biding their time. They may come over to you and say, hey, how you doing? Good neighbor, it's good to see you. Yes, I just came from such and such country and I'm living here and I'm looking for a job, et cetera, et cetera. They want to come across as a nice person. In fact, they'll usually look for what's called a red thread. Are you familiar with that term? In other words, they see you and you walk out of your front door and they see that you have in your hand maybe a brochure for Disney. I don't know, let's make that up. And they'll say, oh, Disney, I've always wanted to go to Disney. I always want to have kids and take them to Disney. And they look for things that you may have in common with them, even though the person has no interest in Disney, metaphorically speaking. But they will look for the red thread to get you to drop your confidence or drop your security. They want you to feel confident in them. And it's a very common tactic. And literally, when we talk about some sleeper cells, in reality, they're taught this concept to look for that red thread and make it so you can literally try to infiltrate the society. And your guard's down, bam, and that's when they get you. And we're talking about people who are actual sleeper cells, but we're also talking about just like predators. And I even hate to say the term because this whole class of people, sexual predators, any sexual predator, mind you, they often fit in this category. Because they'll look for ways, they literally sometimes, not all of them, sometimes get this little psyche mindset going on where they literally have to try to infiltrate and they completely will do nothing stop short of subduing you. And so you may not even know it. There may be people in your town. Of course there's people in your town who are sexual predators, but they may be some friends of yours and you would never know it because they're very good at hiding it. In some ways, they are a sleeper cell. They are those people who are trying to make it look like they're normal, just biding and waiting for their time. That's what both of these have in common, the sleeper cells and predators. They're biding to wait their time because they want to be able to take action in a way where they may not get caught, or at least it's in their favor. You'll find it sometimes, by the way. This whole thing they do where they ask questions is called probing. And you may actually get these people because something in your gut tells you, I don't know what it is, but there's something wrong with this person. And I love people. I try not to judge people, but I don't trust anybody either. But in those cases, listen to your gut. It doesn't hurt to listen to your gut. And just don't trust them. Don't put them in a situation in which they will literally be able to take advantage of you or obviously subdue you and your family. All right, the last one I want to talk about, and this is what most people on different channels don't really face or even talk about. But with my experience as a doctor and in martial arts and combat and everything else, I want to tell you one thing that people have that a lot of people don't really take into account. And that's the fourth type of dangerous person, and that's a person with rage. Rage is the best way to explain it. They literally, and here's the problem, anybody can fall into this category. could, I'm not saying you will, there are more people who are more prone to rage, and I'll talk about why in a second, and some people not so much, but enough is enough. People will flip out, and when they flip out, that rage takes over, and they do not think consciously like, oh, I better not stab this person or kill this person because I'm going to go to. They're not thinking about that. They're thinking about rage. They're letting their emotions completely take control. And this is one of the things I always talk about on this channel is, it's okay to have emotions, have feelings for your spouse and your fluffy cat, all those things, your kids, but get the emotions out of these things. Stop letting emotions guide you. You need to think with your head, not your emotions. All right, so what's going on with these people? Bullies fit this category too, by the way. In the center of your brain, you have what's called the amygdaloid nucleus, or we just call it the amygdala. And that is the rage portion of your brain. And literally, when it kind of like fires, and it's been proven there's hardened violent criminals who literally have this amygdaloid fire very easily compared to the rest of us. And that's why they are violent sometimes, because they have this rage and flip out and just kill people. And now they're in prison. And so what happens is for you and I, if we haven't been training for these situations, and this is why we train in our school for these, then guess what you do? When you have that person coming out for your rage, your prefrontal cortex has to take control and think of the right moves, whatever the case may be, to stop them. And if you haven't been training those moods, training in those particular type of techniques, you're going to be in trouble because that person with the rage is coming right after you. But the rage, by the way, and here's where the bullies come in. Think about this. It also coincides with fear. It's the same center of the brain. So literally, you get somebody who's backed into a corner. This is why we have that idiom, backed into a corner. They may come out with rage, especially if that back to the corner infiltrates their security or their family, or they have no food, etc. So this fourth type of dangerous person really encompasses the rest of them, because it's the person who is desperate. It's the person who, is violent, not because they're a violent criminal, but because literally the violent part of the brain is enlightened. Then the third one, they're really a sleeper or predator. And the reason being is they're just the average guy next door to you. The average guy who comes over, helps you trim your hedges. If that rage portion turns on in his brain, you won't stand a chance unless you train for that situation. So the hardest thing I have when it comes to fighting and sparring is this. If it's somebody who I truly feel I'm threatened, I may be an older guy, but I go to town. I've got a lot of medals to prove it. I'm third in the world right now in this. I'm very good in sparring and defending myself, but I have to have that portion inside of me that just rage and makes angry. I try to turn it on myself. I try. But it doesn't always work, because a lot of times when I actually go compete against these people, I travel around the country, world competitions around the world, and I meet with these people, they become my friends. Hey, how you doing, Chuck? And often we'll spar against each other, and then we'll afterwards put our arms on each other. Oh, good match, good punch in the face, whatever the case may be. We don't punch in our face when we talk about point sparring, by the way. But here's the thing. There was one time I was going against this guy, and he's a higher rank than me too, by the way. And I get in my position, I'm getting ready to go, and he comes over and does an illegal kick and takes out my knee, which could have broken my knee, possibly torn a ligament. And down on the floor, I went and threw out some metaphors out of my mouth, yelling, and then I was rage. It kicked in. I beat the snot out of that guy. And I don't say I want to beat him like I cheated or anything like that, but he got no more points against me. Let me put it that way, because I was so angry. I was going for a world competition last year, and the tables were turned. I developed this move, this technique. It is like almost unstoppable. Somebody doesn't see it coming. It is fantastic. And I did this move on the guy, very first thing, and then I got my butt kicked because he was so mad after that I didn't stand a chance. That's the difference. Ready? You could have a trained fighter, but you take that rage in there, and it takes them to a whole new level. And often, you ready for this? Drugs come into play. There are certain drugs that activate this rage portion, and there's no stopping those people. And if you think it's the nicest person in the world next door who will never do those things, that's the moral of today's story. You're absolutely wrong. You need to be ready, because all four of these dangerous type of people live next door to you. Not might live next door to you. They do live next door to you if that rage center is activated. All right, I want you to do this. In the comments below, tell me a story about something that happened with rage with you. Maybe it was you who got really mad, or maybe somebody else did, but that's what road rage is all about. They just lose it. Tell me a story. Put it in the comments below. I'd like to read some of these because we've all been there before. That's the person we need to watch out for. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.